Okay, everyone. So in this next lesson, let's try to go work with our sign in form and our sign up form here. You would see that it broke when we try to resize the browser. So let's go and apply some media queries for our sign in form here. So let me just go and select this media query, then go to our sign in form and add some media queries to our sign in HTML. So let's go select the form selector, element selector, and then let's just increase the width to 70%. So let's refresh, and now we have our sign in HTML, and it's now responsive when we try to resize our browser here. Now let's go back to our main page here, and let's try to go to our sign up page, and you would see that our sign up form here is now broken, or it doesn't look good. So let's go and try to work with our sign up form here. So let's go here, and I would want to target this first. Add a media query to our body element selector and replace the font size to 12 pixels. Then I also want to go and target the form container here. I would want to go and apply some media queries to our form container, width of 75%. Let's first see how that will look. One of the other key thing that I just want to tackle in this part of our lessons will be the importance of setting our global font size, which is based from the root element. And if you remember, our root element is the HTML element. And instead of using pixels, we would want to use percentage in this case for our global root font size. We also want to talk about why we would want to go and use rem units versus pixels in our projects. And let's try to convert some of the values here that contains pixels, and we would want to go and change these values to rem. Okay, why do we want to go and change all of these absolute values pixel units to rem? This is because we would want an easy way for us to be able to change all of the measurements in our page with one simple setting. Let's say, for example, we hit a specific breakpoint in our project or in our document. For example, from a large screen to a smaller screen, such as a mobile device. When that happens, we would want to easily decrease all of the measurements in our site at the same time. So instead of us writing so many media queries here, it will be a lot easier for us to just go and change one global setting. So that will be, so we would want to go and set the global font size through the root element that we have here, through the root element. So let me just, we want to set the global font size through the root element, because if you remember, rem units is always, or a rem unit is always in relation to the root font size here. So if we set that root font size, we can then very easily change all of the other measurements in our page. And we also want to solve this problem here. And if you can see here, we are trying to resize it, and not all of the measurements of our elements here are resizing all at the same time. So let's try to go and solve that by implementing a global font size. And for us to change all of the absolute pixel units here to rem, and let's see what will happen. And in this case, I want to go and set the font size of our root element to 10 pixels. And let's remove the font size here of 16 pixels and change it to 10 pixels. Now, you may be wondering, why did we change the root font size to 10 pixels? This is just so that we can go and make our lives a lot easier. Because now we know that 1 rem is equals to exactly 10 pixels. We now know that 1 rem is exactly the root font size, which is the HTML root here, and the root font size of our root element is 10 pixels. Now it will be easy for us to replace all of the pixel units with rem because all we have to do is to divide all of the pixels by 10. If our root font size was 16 pixels, then we will have to do a lot of calculations, and we are trying to avoid that. And just remember, this is a very common technique that we implement so that it will be a lot easier for us to do some calculations. Now we know that 1 rem is equals to 10 pixels. So let's go and try to do that. So here, let's go down here. If we can see here, the font size is 12 pixels. Let's try to divide that by 10. Let me open up here our calculator. 12 divided by 10, then that's 1.2 rem. Okay, so let me comment this out. And then, oops, sorry for that. Let's have, this is how I usually do it. I comment out the original value. Then I'm going to apply here the next value that I've used, just so that I will be aware that this is the font size that was originally the value that I used for a certain project, or for example, if I want to revert back to that, I still have that option. Okay, so now we have 1.2 rem here, and if we go down here, we have 3 pixels here. So if we go and try to divide that, so that will be around 0.3 rem, right? So 3 divided by 10, we have 0.3 rem. So we usually omit the 0. So we just go and put 0.3 rem here. And where else do we have pixels here? So we have here 0.5 rem. Now let's go and try to also implement a height here of 33.5 rem. Let's see how that will look. Okay. Then here, let's change this to 0.3 rem. Here, 0.2 rem. Here, 0.5 rem. So let's first refresh that. Let's just see how that will look in our browser. So we just increased the height here. Don't worry, we'll work on that later on. Then let's go and change our margin here to 0.5 rem. And here, instead of 55 VH, I would want to use 33.5 rem here. Let's see how that will look. Okay, so we'll just adjust that later on. And for our margin left here, let's change that to 0.5 rem, 0.2 rem. Here, let's change this to 0.5 rem, margin 0.2 rem, 0.5 rem, 1 rem, 0.5 rem. Let's see first how this will look. So nothing so far have changed, but in the larger desktop, it's changed here in the larger desktop version. So we'll work on that later on. But for now, let's go first and translate every values here to rem. 0.5 rem. Here we have 3 rem. Here we have 0.5 rem, 0.2 rem, 0.5 rem, 1 rem, 0.5 rem. Let's also go put this as 0.5, 3 rem. Here, let's go change this to 0.5 rem, 0.2 rem, 0.5 rem, 1 rem, 34, divide 10, 3.4. So sometimes if you're not sure, guys, you would see that it's a lot easier to divide it by 10, right? Here we have 0.5 rem. Here we have 3 rem, 0.5 rem, 0.2 rem, 0.5 rem, 1 rem, 3.4 rem, 0.5 rem, 3 rem, same deal here, 0.5 rem, 0.2 rem, 0.5 rem, 1 rem, 1.9 rem. Here we have 0.5 rem, here 3 rem, 1.5 rem, 1 rem, 1.4 rem, 1 rem, 1 rem, 1 rem, 0.5 rem, here 1.2 rem, 0.8 rem, 0.5, 1 rem, 1 rem, 1 rem, 2 rem, then 0.5 rem, 1 rem. Let's see how this will look. Okay, so perhaps let's go adjust the height of our form container here. So let me just go back here. Let's see where that is. So it's 56.4 VH here. Instead of using VH, let's go and use a different value, 34.5 rem here. Let's see how that will look. Okay, so that's a much better layout for our desktop version. Let's go back here. So if we try to go back here, everyone, let's try to see here. If I go and change this to 15 pixels, you would see it's easy for us to change the values. Let's say 9 pixels, and a lot of the values are changing automatically, and that's the reason why we would want to specify the global font size, so at least it will be a lot easier for us to adjust the values for the different properties that we have set. And that's why we are using the rem unit rather than the pixel unit. Okay, so let's go bring that back to 10 pixels. Let me just go adjust our checkbox here. So let's go down here and look for, so this is our checkbox. Let's go put a line break here. Okay, that's much better. Okay, so perhaps we can just go and adjust some of the values here later. Just take note that we actually don't want to use pixels in our root element. and instead there's a much better way on how we can go and implement a global font size here through the root element. A better practice will be to go and set the overall font size to a percentage unit. We do know that the default font size for browsers is 16 pixels. So that means if we put here 100%, that means that's the default font size for browsers, which is 16 pixels. So let's go and try to take note of that here. Default font size of browsers is 16 pixels, which is equal to 100%, right? So that's the default font size, and we would want to decrease this to 10 pixels. So all we have to do is to divide 10 by 16. So if we go get our calculator, so you would see here 10 divided by 16 is equals to 62.5%. So let's go and try to oops, sorry, 62.5%. So that's it, guys. If we try to go and 0.625 multiplied by 16, which is the default value of the browser, which is 16 pixels, that will be equivalent to 10 pixels. Okay, so now let's just go and try to adjust here our form container. So 34.5 RAM. Let's see what happens if we go and, okay. But we also want to go and increase this 34.5 RAM. And this, let's perhaps go and increase this to 35.5 RAM. I think that's much better. It looks better. And if you try to go and move this, you would see, unlike the values that we applied earlier, you would see that it's not breaking. And our layout is still okay while we're resizing the browser. Now let's just go and check first if it's okay if our site is full screen. So I think we also need to adjust here in our form container. So let's also go make this 35.5 RAM. Okay, so at least we were now able to work with one of the breakpoints for our site here, and the form is not breaking. Now let's try to go and work with our repeat password here, and let's see what we can do here. 2.1 RAM, 2.5 RAM on the left side because this is the left margin here. So at least it looks better. It's much aligned now. Okay, and H1 here can also be, we can try to go and text align center. And what's that here? Form para 1. Let's also go and have that text aligned center. But just for distinguishment, instead of putting this here and here, let's go put it in a media query. Okay, so I'd like to put the media query for H1 with a text align center. And media query for our form, paragraph 1, text align center. Or if you want, guys, let me first show you if this will work. Control K and C, Control K and C. Let's refresh. And it's working. And if we go back here, so we have a different layout for the desktop layout, and we have a different layout for the media query here. Now, if we want to go and try this out, para 1, let's see what will happen. And it's still the same. If I go and place it on the right, it's working there. Left, it's working here. And you would see that I specified 2 class selectors here, and I separated it with a comma. And now it's able to target the 2 element here, 1 element selector and 1 class selector, and text align, right? So I want to go back to center here, so at least there's a bit of difference when we are in a desktop device screen and a smaller screen. So I'm hoping you got a lot of take home here in this lesson. So that will be all for now. And thank you, and see you on our next lessons.